What was Peter doing the first time he met Jesus? He was fishing, along with many of the other disciples. Jesus came to the Sea of Galilee and said, "Follow me." And they left their nets and their boats behind and followed him. Today, at the end of the Gospel of John, after the resurrection appearances, what is Peter trying to do? Go fishing. They're trying to fish right back at the Sea of Galilee, also known as the Sea of Tiberias. The disciples go back to what they know, only it doesn't work out the way it used to. They can't catch a single fish on their own anymore. One way of interpreting this would be to say that we can't go backwards. We can try, and nostalgia is a powerful, powerful draw. I want things back the way they were. I want my nets and my boat back. But the disciples are not the same people they were before they met Jesus. They have been changed. They are no longer able to fish for fish. They are now able only to fish for people. And so they need Jesus to lead them and teach them how to do that. When Jesus does arrive, he doesn't just do sort of the fish miracle and prove that he's fully real by eating the fish and the bread and send them back to their boats. Resurrection transformation is not about just being better at what we were already doing before we met Jesus. Jesus reorients them as to how they're supposed to live and what they're supposed to do now that he has been raised. And it's not to go back on the water and just catch an abundant harvest of fish. Simon Peter led the disciples to those boats. Now Jesus is going to lead them somewhere else. And to show them how to do this, Jesus begins with this wonderful dialogue with Peter. Peter, do you love me? Now, Greek, which is the language of the New Testament, has 3 different words for love. Some of you know this, but it's important to know. There's eros, which means erotic love, philo, which means brotherly love or fondness, think of Philadelphia, and agape, which is the self-emptying, sacrificial love that Jesus has for us. At Bible and Brewskis this week, we wondered if it was like the fact that there are 50 words for snow in Eskimo. The things that you have the most familiarity with have the most subtlety and vocabulary. It made us a little sad that there was only 1 word for love in English, guessing that maybe the Greeks knew more about love than we do, or than the English did. But you have to know the different words as they're being used to understand the gospel today. So Jesus asks Peter, "Simon, son of John, do you agape me more than these? Do you love me selflessly?" And Peter responds, "Yes, Lord, you know that I philo you. You know that I love you as a brother, that I'm fond of you." Jesus tries again, "Simon, son of John, do you agape me?" And Peter responds again, "Yes, Lord, you know that I philo you." And the 3rd time, Jesus changes what he says. "Simon, son of John, do you philo me?" It's almost like Jesus is lowering the bar to accommodate Peter so that what Jesus asks of Peter is something that Peter can handle. And Peter grabs at it. Peter can do this. Peter can love Jesus like a brother. And because of that, that's enough that he can feed the sheep. Loving Jesus as much as we can, as much as we are capable of, is about turning that love around and offering it to others. And Jesus shows the development of these disciples, referring to them in that first moment when he sees them, "Children, you don't have any fish, do you?" He calls them children there. And then he continues in the dialogue with Peter talking about when he has grown old, when he is mature, which is when he will lose his independence and be led where he does not wish to go. Being a child in faith means you set your own course. You decide to get on the boat. You decide to fish. Being mature means you let Jesus set your course. Jesus closes with the simple distillation of all of this in his 2 words, "Follow me." Last Sunday, Jonathan and I worshiped at a megachurch in Phoenix with my cousins. It was a much better experience than we had thought it was going to be. And the pastor was starting a preaching series on what is a Christian. I was a little worried when he started his sermon on that topic that whatever he was about to say was going to be something that deliberately excluded me from being a Christian. But the way he finally defined it was this: a Christian is someone who follows Jesus. I sat back and thought, that's pretty good. No, it wasn't based in baptism or in a few test beliefs or in having a salvific experience or how often you go to church. And as the pastor put it very amusingly, going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than sleeping in a garage makes you a car. Being a Christian is about a direction and an attitude towards Jesus. Jesus is the one I follow. And if you can say and do that, well, then you're a Christian. Of course, the problem with that is that following is really hard, particularly for some of us. We learn from a young age that we're supposed to lead, not follow. 2 months ago at the Priests Conference, we had an evening with, of all things, a DJ and dancing. Picture all these priests on a dance floor dancing together. Now, I can dance, but I've never taken enough lessons at partner dance to really get it. But I can fake it pretty well, or so I thought. And a friend of mine who's a good old boy from South Carolina started dancing what I now know is the Carolina Shag with me. One of those dances with a lot of spins and twists and, going under each other's arms. And I kept messing it up. Finally, he said to me in frustration, "Jennifer, you have to let me lead." I was like, well, I know, I have trouble with that in a lot of areas, not just on the dance floor. Now, I hear Jesus saying that to me too. Jennifer, you have to let me lead. I like being in control. Following means we're vulnerable, which is why both the Acts lesson and the gospel today challenge me. Saul is not in control when he is blinded on the road to Damascus. Ananias is not in control when he is instructed to go to Saul and heal him. The disciples are not in control when they go back to fishing. And Jesus is very clear with Peter in his dialogue with him that Peter will not be in control. He will be led places he does not want to go. Peter, you have to let me lead. Now, letting Jesus lead does not mean being passive. Ananias is not passive. Letting God lead means he goes to Saul and heals him and risks a lot. He risks his standing in the community, perhaps even his life. Ananias brings Saul into the Christian community, helps him to learn about Jesus in ways that Saul had never heard while he was persecuting Christians. Ananias is a leader precisely because he follows Jesus and lets God lead. The same is true of Saul. He leads the church into the Gentile world because he follows Jesus and lets God lead. Peter will preach the gospel and be the rock of the church because he finally learns how to follow and let God lead. Letting Jesus lead us is part of loving Jesus with that selfless agape love, the one that truly allows us to feed the sheep and to be fed, because at heart we are still sheep too. We have to let God lead. But can I trust God to let God lead? For me, there's no better way to say that than in a song, the beautiful hymn, "Precious Lord, Take My Hand," especially because that song hints so well at the final journey that Jesus alludes to with Peter, the path that we are most afraid to take, but the one that we will all inevitably be led down, no matter how much we fight. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead precious